Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. I'm your host, Spencer. I just had a baby, that's why we missed last week, but I'm very grateful to my co-host, West, for allowing me to take last week off to, just have time.
That's right. 1 week off from me cracking the whip.
Just to kind of get the stuff out of the way, so we don't get comments or questions. Baby's doing fine. She's lost a little bit of weight. That's to be expected. It's a little bit more than we'd like. She was about 3 weeks early. We have an appointment tomorrow with her doctor. We had an emergency C-section for a couple reasons, but that we won't get into. But mom's doing pretty good on the recovery. In a lot of pain, but it's a major surgery, so
yeah,
that can be a little bit expected. But the family's doing okay. So, and little Maxwell, the older brother now, he's enjoying things, and the puppy. There's pictures of the puppy protecting the baby if anybody wants to see them on my Instagram.
Oh, I'm sure Obi does good baby stuff. He was great the last time, right?
He's a big fan of babies. Really doesn't like toddlers. Not
surprising. I would say that most people feel that way, Spencer.
Yeah, that's true.
Babies are, for the most part, cute and painless, I'll say, in their interactions with people, and toddlers tend to be nothing but herdy.
Yeah, we're not going to talk too much about babies. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit because there is something I have to say.
There's some babies.
There
are babies in this movie.
There are babies that we can talk about later in this episode. But we're going to continue our series on reviewing the Star Wars trilogies this week. Since we're doing them in release order, we'll be covering the prequels, and I'm really excited about it. And we'll get into our nerd fact of the week because I don't know that this ever occurred to me when watching Attack of the Clones for the first time, but 100% of the clones in Attack of the Clones are all CG. There's not
like more CG than when they used two Lindsay Lohans in Parent Trap.
Yes, like not all. I try to watch again, but like the clones never take off their helmet in this one.
Some of them are
so when they're in
like one shot of them is like pilots that we see their faces. Otherwise, they don't take their helmets off. Yeah.
Do we see so the shot that I was thinking of was when they are getting lunch, and they're looking over the cafeteria on Camino. But those are still CG. Those are not.
I'm thinking of we get the way that a clone
pilot helmet looks.
Pilot helmet has a transparent and larger visor.
Is that true in the second film though? It's true in the third film when they're in the headhunters.
We have one shot, I think, of them in the second film where we see the two, and it's like of a gunship, and that could easily be CGI. But that at least we have the face of the actor whose name I should know because he's really important in Star Wars.
Dude, I am so excited for him in the Book of Boba. For what it's worth,
finally gonna get that actor as one character for a while.
Yeah, he was in quite a few. It's Tamara Moore. I want to say Morrison.
Has to be one of the most credited people in all of Star Wars, right?
Oh yeah, there it is. Tamara Morrison is correct. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but yeah, those were CG. It's funny too because like we'll get into the visuals later in the episode, but the thing that I found so interesting about this is there was an interview recently with Ewan McGregor where he talks about kind of this filming of Kenobi, and he says that he was like a child when he saw Stormtrooper on set for the first time. He was like losing it. Yeah. It was like I was 12 again, and it's funny to me they did such a good job making the clones not stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Like, even Maxwell, when he watches these movies, is like very clearly knows they're not stormtroopers and can differentiate. But they're like they also did a really good job, even between episodes 2 and 3, of making that transition apparent. Like you see the transition into what would eventually become Star Destroyers. You see the transition into the armor, into the
that first shot of episode 3 where they show the big gunship. Oh man, and it's like, yeah, this is definitely a Star Destroyer in Proto.
Yeah,
it's so good, so good.
The whole thing, like the armor that you see in episode 3, we're like really far into this nerd fact of the week, but the armor you see in episode 3, those transitional armors of the scout clone, like all of these things that you would eventually become Imperial standard, is really interesting.
Yeah. If you watch The Bad Batch, you'll learn more about that transition from clones to not clones.
I tried to catch up on Bad Batch last night, but my son was not having it, so I gotta watch it probably tonight.
And I think I'm caught up on Bad Batch more than you are right now, Spencer.
That's true, because I have not seen the episode from last Wednesday.
I literally caught up last night, so...
You finished these movies and you just had to have more Star Wars? I love it.
Yeah.
It's actually what happened to me, too. I
actually had trouble starting one of them because I had watched the first episode of The Bad Batch because I was, like, I think it was, like, episode 2, I was like, had just watched the first episode of The Bad Batch like the night before because I was like, I don't have time for another movie, but I want to keep watching.
Sure.
And then it was hard for me to like start episode 2 because I'm like, but I want to watch The Bad Batch.
Sure. The first episode of Bad Batch is really good. But let's move off to the nerd fact of the week. The clones CG that they didn't even use extras or anything. They just plopped in and hundreds of thousands of computer programmed people.
That was really in vogue in 2002 for the special effects stuff, because like Lord of the Rings also uses this for one of their large scale battles that they show at the very beginning or something.
Yeah, it's actually true. That's actually a really good point. I actually remember watching the special features. I think it was Return of the King, where I didn't really understand how much bigger of a scale the Battle of Minas Tirith was than the Battle of Helm's Deep. I was like, there's 10,000 orcs attacking Helm's Deep. Like, that's so...
characters we know about
are
all in every scene.
Yeah. But the
fights.
The Battle of Minas Tirith is so much bigger. Like, yeah. It's crazy. Housekeeping, really quick. Discord. Discord is picking up again. We had tons of memes, pet pics, MTG discussions happening literally today. For those who know me, I don't know. If I'm tooting my own horn here, Wes, would you call me an expert in Gruul decks?
I would call you an expert in Gruul decks.
And it is...
Especially if they also have blue.
Yeah, then I'm even better. Yeah, Teamer was my thing. But I actually posted a Gruul list that I've been trying out in Historic this week, and I already had somebody pick it up today and text me back and be like, yo, this deck's really good. I was like, yeah, I know. Like, I haven't lost with it yet. I'm very aware.
Your list. Anytime I'm like looking to dive into Historic, I just find your most recent Gruul deck. I'll usually update it, play like 5 games. I'm like, yeah, this deck is good, and then go figure out what I want to do in Historic.
No, that's. I mean, I'm sorry for the long lapse in playing Gruul. I've been playing so much Mono Red and Phoenix lately that you've probably felt.
I honestly haven't been touched by Historic, and also there's been plenty to do in Historic recently.
Sure.
But this is not a Magic the Gathering podcast.
Yeah, but yeah, like Magic the Gathering. We're getting close to like when my life is back to normalcy, and I do plan on running Smash events inside this Discord, as well as Pauper events. I actually am in touch with our Pauper podcast co-hosts over at the Constructive Criticism Network to have one of them come on to talk about Pauper and announce that series and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on in there. And then also, if you just like what Wes and I are doing, this show will always be free. We'll always do this because we love it. But if you want to help the show improve, I do a lot for free. Like, just to be completely honest, the amount of work that I put into this show that would cost $25 to $60 an hour is a lot. And I do that for my passion for nerd culture. But if you want to help out the show, you want to help us improve, head on over to patreon.com/HeezyGameMedia. Anything helps. And I've said this before, but just $1 on Patreon, I mean, it's worth more than 1,000 views on YouTube for that month. Like, it is.
When isn't that just the case? Where like $1 in your pocket is worth like actually any number of the things that the internet says it pays us for?
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts.
Spotify going off today. Holy cow.
What happened with Spotify?
Oh, just talking a bit about where their priorities really are in terms of whether or not they care at all about compensating musical artists.
Oh, yeah, we won't get into that today. But let's get into the prequels, and in typical fashion, I figured that if I made West hype this, he was just gonna make me hype it instead. Do you want to do it? You can do it.
No, absolutely. This is your correct hype. I have no question with you being the hype man for this one. My question was the reasoning.
If I had put your name there, you would have said you should probably do this literally in the show notes.
I thought like I was going to do a bad job of hyping.
No. You just would have told.
To step in now because
no.
Hype enough about
that's not what I meant.
Which
I meant
I feel like is some of our hypes anyways, but that's just because you get really excited about things.
That's true. No, I just meant that you would have just said you should do this. This is.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think that to hype up the prequels. So I think to look at how to hype up the prequels is to look at Star Wars as a whole, because Star Wars was like the Beatles of movies in a lot of ways. It was.
I really want to know where you're going with saying that, considering I know your opinions about the Beatles.
No. I think that the Beatles are the most influential band of all time.
Wait, that's not the word you usually use.
That is not, but that is. It's fine. We don't need to get into my thoughts about the Beatles. The Beatles are the most influential band to ever exist. They defined the landscape of music for many years to come. In a lot of ways, the Star Wars trilogy, the original, did the exact same thing for film. It changed filmmaking forever. And so when The Phantom Menace was coming out, I mean, it was arguably the most anticipated film of all time. You had fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers who showed their children and grandchildren these films that were so important to them, that now after 16 years we're going to get to share an experience with them on the big screen. And also leading up to this, they did the re-release in theaters of the original trilogy, where they added all of these things that some people don't love, some people do love, but a lot of these people that were going to see this first film had just seen Star Wars on the big screen for the very first time, like literally the last 3 years before. And so when we look at this, you know what's coming, like what the story is going to be about, that this is the story of. Especially when you look at the marketing, by the way, that came with the Phantom Menace, you there's literally a poster that I used to have of Anakin walking across Tatooine with Darth Vader's shadow, instead of his own shadow is one of the posters.
Yeah.
It is this.
How does this cute little kid become a monster?
Yeah,
it's one of the scariest villains
of
all time.
But one of the greatest villains to ever exist, if not the greatest. And I think that hypes it up by itself. That you get the origins of how this character that Obi-Wan and Yoda reference so respectfully becomes this thing that they hate so much.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody wanted to see that.
Absolutely.
So let's get first time reactions. I'll jump in first. And West, I remember all of it. I mean, I was 9 years old when Phantom Menace came out. I remember getting in the car. I remember waiting in the line, and I'm talking for all of the movies, not just Phantom Menace. Like, some of my most vivid memories are standing in line for the Phantom Menace, because we were outside the theater, wrapped around it, waiting to get in,
excited.
And it was hot. We went with my cousins on my dad's side and his family. It was so much. I remember the car ride to Attack of the Clones really vividly. I went with my best friend and my cousin Caleb, and we had seen the trailer for that had Anakin Skywalker fighting with two lightsabers, which had never been seen before. I remember the trailer for freaking Phantom Menace has Darth Maul igniting the double-sided lightsaber. Like, I mean, the marketing for these movies, the experience of every single one of these films, that was just, oh man, I'm like getting chills. Like, it was, the Star Wars was my favorite thing in the world as a child. Like, I don't know if I said this during the original trilogy podcast, but like, I've probably seen Return of the Jedi in, like, I don't know, like 100 times up to this point. Like, I had seen it so many times. And so, you know, I think, you know, I remember walking out after Attack of the Clones and just being like, dude, I always thought Yoda was such like a weird goblin looking, like, I thought Yoda was the coolest thing ever. I remember leaving Revenge of the Sith and thinking literally that was the best movie I had ever seen in my life as a child. And so my first time reactions are all obviously super nostalgic, but also, you know, some of the like, what's the movie Inside Out? Like, these are core memories for me as far as a human being. So, what about you?
Oh man, so I cannot say I walked into Star Wars with a very clear vision of where I was headed or where things were going. Because by the time I was like, the prequels came out kind of in and around my childhood. And so this was like an era where Star Wars was on everything, whether or not you had seen the movies. So, like, you know, by the time I, 7 years old, go to see Attack of the Clones for the first time, not having seen The Phantom Menace, probably not having ever seen any other Star Wars movie, I already know all the characters because they're on everything.
Yeah, the cultural impact for you, as well as, like, it's so interesting too to get your perspective on these things, and I want to help the podcast listeners understand that. If this is your first episode, like, West, you didn't watch a lot of TV. You didn't, like, the movies that you watched were just the movies in your home as a child.
Yeah, absolutely. This was something nuts. This was way over the top.
Yeah. So, like, for you, you know, getting to go to Attack of the Clones, I mean, I don't know if you, like, for a birthday party, all of your friends probably talked about Star Wars at school all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, and this, like, friend I was going with, like, one of the coolest things that we would go do over his house when we hung out was, like, he had all the, like, Lego Star Wars sets, and we would just, like, have, like, huge scale mock battles or whatever, right? Classic things that kids do with their Lego Star Wars stuff. So, like, I was absolutely buying in so hard. Like, I remember, like, the Star Wars trading card they gave us, and, like, the tiny movie poster, and, like, all of that was just so awesome to get. And then, I don't know, I just, like, was strapped into a chair for 2 hours and had actual no idea what was happening, but I loved every single moment of it, which was awesome. And then I definitely saw Revenge of the Sith, and by that point I'd had seen every Star Wars movie with the exception of only a vague recollection of what happened in The Phantom Menace, because I'd only ever seen bits and pieces. For some reason, that movie totally evaded me throughout my childhood. It was just never what other people wanted to watch, and I didn't have it, and it was a long time until I got the opportunity to just watch it. And I just say, like, I want to watch this. I don't care if no one else is going to watch it. I'm going to watch The Phantom Menace. But then going into Revenge of the Sith was just awesome, because that movie had everything you could possibly hope for and landed the ship perfectly and brought everything around in such a neat way.
I have to ask, how old were you when Revenge came out? Because I think I was 13.
I was like 9.
So, I was 15.
Oh, okay. Then I was like 11.
So were you going to friends' houses watching Toonami yet?
Yeah.
So you had seen all the commercials for this film, like you were hyped for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Let's go into high-level impressions. I want to talk about just overall in the trilogy what this felt like. I don't know if I'm going to cry during this episode. I think that I'm just going to read what I wrote, because I don't know how to do this without doing that. But I think often in storytelling you you know the good guys are going to win. Like, you know it. When it doesn't happen, it's usually this huge deal in film. And
Yeah.
here it's so much different because it was never going to be a surprise that the bad guys won. Ever. It was never going to be a surprise.
Yeah, we knew what it was like at the end of all of this.
Yeah, like,
we know who everyone was at the end of all of this as well.
Yeah, so it was a really different experience trying to guess and understand what that bridge looked like. And honestly, I love these films. I think that during the original podcast, I don't know if I said this, but I think we judge movies. If we did judge movies as harshly as people judged the prequels or the sequels, there would not be a good film in existence.
Or certainly we'd have all figured out better one-liners.
Like, it's just insane how. And maybe this is the time to talk about this, but like, I was shamed for loving the prequels. Like, as a teenager, like, people were like, "You're an idiot if you think these films are good." And I think that Star Wars is the best popcorn flick. Like, as far as these, like, all of them, like all 11 of them, I think.
I never feel like, oh, I couldn't rewatch a Star Wars movie.
No,
it's like, yeah.
If you want to get 15 people together for a movie night and you want to put on, like, Star Wars, there's very few people who are going to be like, nah, man, I'm not into that. Like, there are some, and that's fine. But I think that as far as, like, a popcorn flick goes, this is the pinnacle of it. And I think that if you want to experience escapism, Star Wars does a really, really good job of presenting that, while also having deeper conversations about morality, religion. Like, if you want it not to be escapism, it can be not escapism. But if you just want to enjoy a hero's tale, or a tragedy, or, you know, whatever it is you want to enjoy, like, Star Wars just offers that in a really good way. And I actually think the prequels do the very best job of any of the trilogies of that.
Oh yeah, the Attack of the Clones to me feels a lot like Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, not just in the era they came out, not just in, like, the amount of, like, color that they both present, but, like, in this, like, real, like, we know who we are, we know what we're presenting here, and we want to make sure it's a delightful one. You will have fun with this.
Yeah. Fun fact: for years, people just talked about how that was the worst Star Wars movie.
They're wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
because they had worse considerations just kind of, like, laying around for them to use, but also, whew, we've managed to, its ranking has gone up over time for sure.
I think that I'll get into this later, but I also think that I connected to these stories really well. I don't even know that I realized what was happening to me as a child. It's possible that, who I am as a person was shaped by Anakin Skywalker quite a bit.
Possible, you say.
And I honestly wish that all of these movies were 3 hours long. We'll get into some things that I would have done differently with that, but I think that I almost wish that these movies were 3 hours long, and there was, like, I mean, we'll get into this and could be better, but I would have changed dialogue quite a bit too. But
more politics.
I actually don't hate the politics. I know people really. I know people really hate it, but there are moments, like, there are really good moments in that Senate chamber within the series. What about you? What are your high level impressions?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I think that when I was, younger and just watched it, was like, this is sweet, right? Like, I don't think I had the full appreciation for, like, these are films that were made 20-ish years after their original films, and, like, they don't have choices here. Like, there's a bunch of things they have to do over the course of these films. They have to explain what all these things mean that are said in random one-liners in A New Hope, and they just take it to such a high level. I love the transformation of stormtroopers, as we've already said. I love knowing what the Jedi were like and how come there's almost none of them left. I love the story of who was Anakin Skywalker and who was he to Obi-Wan Kenobi is an especially good story. But like, all I wanted to know, or was just checking, like, did they talk about this in A New Hope? Yep, here it is. Did they talk about this here? Yep. Oh, there was a Senate that got dissolved. What were they like? All of these things get mentioned in the first Star Wars movie, and we have a really strong like outline of what's happening over these 3 films, but every bit of what's filled in is just delightful and playful and imaginative.
It's really funny. I want to dive into some of this before we're going to talk about our favorite films in the trilogy. But you just said something that was really interesting to me, because I feel like rewatching. I watch these films a lot. I don't know if people could guess this about me, but I probably watch every one of these films every year at least, plus sometimes I just put them on. Not just these films, but like all of Star Wars. But there's so much that I get out of rewatches still, and I don't know. I don't know if I would consider myself like a Star Wars expert compared to some people that are like.
Every time I don't know a Star Wars term, you're like, "Oh, this thing is that."
Yeah,
I
know. To my friends, I am a Star Wars expert, but to people who are somehow even more obsessed than me, I am not.
Okay, well, it turns out that you're an expert if you know knowledge that no one else does, that a layperson wouldn't have.
Sure.
Not if an expert says you're an expert.
Sure. Well, then I'm probably pretty close to a Star Wars expert. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that even for me, it probably wasn't until like 5 years ago or so, maybe less than that, that like I really found Tarkin's line in A New Hope to be really interesting about the remnants of the Senate being erased. And what is that? That means there's so much time that the Senate is trying to exist. Like it took the Empire a long time to get rid of any remnants of the Republic. And that's just one aspect of this deeper story, and how much story there is to tell if you're interested in this universe. And I think that considering how much story there is, there's a lot in the prequels, like a lot that they gave us.
Yeah. And we know there's a lot because they've told a lot of the stories in and around it since then.
Yeah.
And those are all awesome stories, and they cling to the skeletons of these movies in a really important way, and that kind of dictates everything. Who these characters are in these movies dictates who they are in the shows.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere in the shows.
Yeah, we'll probably do a podcast on the 3 Star Wars films that are not trilogies, between the Clone Wars movie, the Solo, and the other. But let's talk about fan favorites, or not. So, all right, I almost didn't include this question, and it'll be really clear why. What is your favorite film in the trilogy, West?
What is my favorite film in the trilogy? Well, let's see. I love Phantom Menace and I love Attack of the Clones, but I love them for like what they are, and I don't really want to change them. Revenge of the Sith, I just keep massaging juice out of that one. Like, there's still so much life left in that movie that every time I come back to it, there's new angles to consider, there's new amazing things that I'm having fun with, and all I want is for that film to be the gold standard in Star Wars.
It's I always include this. Like, here's the thing. I think that
we had a good discussion on the originals about our favorites because they're different. But it's not really competitive on this one.
No, it's not.
We're also gonna have the same favorite, I think, in the newest trilogy as well.
Ooh, probably not.
We talked about elements of this before, so unless you've changed your opinion.
My opinion changes on that weekly, so.
Okay, fair.
Anytime I watch that trilogy again, I just have a new opinion.
I can't wait to see what we have after we rewatch.
I want to talk about why the third film is our favorite. There's so much here. I
know why.
Oh, go ahead.
Stakes and a good villain. That's why.
Who's the villain?
who's the villain? I mean, obviously Palpatine's the villain, but also at some point Anakin's the villain. That's what's cool about it.
Some point Mace Windu's the villain.
At some point, Mace Windu is definitely the villain.
At some point, Grievous is the villain, and there. I
like all those villains.
I know. The thing is like, if when we go to our villain power rankings episode eventually, right? Like I'm gonna make sure that like Mace Windu, Anakin, and you know what? I think Mace Windu is like. Anyway,
I had a moment while, of course, when this important scenes playing out when I was rewatching it, where Mace is standing over Palpatine and Anakin's trying to decide what to do. I was thinking, in that moment, if Mace takes out Palpatine and we just explore a different timeline, he and Anakin are the Sith Lords.
Dude,
like 100%.
Dude, you know what's nuts too? I watched this movie this week, right? And we're watching this, and the first thing that Mace says to Palpatine is, "You're under arrest." So he's actually doing what Anakin wants. And then Palpatine goes on this rant, and then Mace changes his mind. He's like, "You know what? I'm actually going to kill you." And that's when Anakin's like, "Yeah, arrest him. Like, let's do this."
Yeah.
And it's not until Mace proves his hypocrisy that things change. And I think that one of the things that is so interesting about Revenge of the Sith is, as far as like films for me as an adult and as a kid, like as a kid it's just a slam dunk, right? It's got the best fight scene in all of Star Wars. It's not close. It's got the not remotely close.
Darth Vader and Obi-Wan didn't have an exciting one in the fourth film. They'd already played it all out.
Did you watch that thing that I sent your friend, by the way?
Oh, I don't know if I did.
Oh,
the one where it's all of that.
You need to watch. There's a fight scene between old Obi-Wan and Darth Vader that I think should just be edited into Star Wars. It's really good. Anyway, it's got the best fight scene. It's got the intrigue of Yoda versus. I mean, the fights between Yoda, the fights between those two.
We get like 5 excellent lightsaber battles in that movie.
Yeah, you've got the actual fall of Darth Vader. You've got so much. I actually don't have the time for this episode to go into all of it, but there's so much that I could go off on and why it's our favorite. But I think for me, we'll get into it, but I think the fall of the Jedi and like understanding their problems is a big reason for this. Let's go to favorite characters. I knew who our favorite characters were going to be, by the way, before I even started typing this. So why don't you go first?
Well, then I guess I'll start with my one that's a surprise, because after this rewatch, I'm like super tempted to say that I think Newt Gunray is an excellent character in a totally spoofy villain sort of way. And the thing that makes me like the most excited about it is he's the separatist leader that we actually see in all 3 films. And he pursues this grudge against Padme in the second film that I think is so excellent. And like there's a moment in when like the cat's trying to get Padme where like Newt thinks that like the cat definitely has it, and he's like, "Yes, I get it. Finally I get my revenge." And I think it's so relatable, and I think Newt Gunray is a hilarious villain, and I actually just think he's awesome.
I don't know if it's still there. There used to be a cheese free or like less cheesy cut of Star Wars on YouTube, where one of the things that they did is they got rid of the kind of racist accent of Newt Gunray and his companions. But I'm a big fan of Newt Gunray as well.
Yeah, I think that like every time he's making a decision, his reasoning for making that decision is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but also very legitimate. When are we going to report back to Darth Sidious? When we have something to report, obviously. That's a great line.
I also just love his... The Trade Federation shows a lot of things wrong with... I hate to get too political, but like capitalism in general, and like just how big of a coward he is really.
Oh yeah,
like I really like that.
And it like runs all the way down, right? Like the Trade Federation Commander is a coward. The droids are cowards. Every person with self-determinism in the Trade Federation runs away anytime they're outnumbered. It's awesome.
Who's your other favorite character?
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's just so delightful and so caring, and Ewan McGregor is such a fantastic actor. And even when the lines are cheesy, they're really delivered with the full heart and meaning, like, given behind them. And it's just so much fun to see Obi-Wan as a character in this way and have that comparison to who he is as an older man, and soon who he is in this darker, unknown period of his life. But Obi-Wan is easily my favorite character of the prequels.
When you come over to play Smash with Matt and I next, or for whatever reason come over, I have a book for you to borrow.
Sweet.
It's called Master and Apprentice, I think. I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head, but it is.
But it's about Obi-Wan.
It's about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn.
That sounds awesome. It's
really, really good. It's by Claudia Gray. She's like top 3 Star Wars writer.
Okay.
So, for me, I actually have to differentiate. I haven't written this down in my good be betters, but we'll probably talk about it. But it's actually Hayden's Anakin Skywalker. I'm gonna have to read this. I'm gonna have to read this one because I actually will cry if I don't. So I think people love to talk crap on Anakin's acting, but I actually think he does a really good job with what he's given as far as dialogue, because it's really bad. And actually, I think there's a reason the dialogue for Anakin is so bad, and I think it has to do with the fact that I don't think that George Lucas quite understands Anakin's perspective, and I also think that Anakin's perspective is really hard to understand as a character overall.
Yeah.
But I also think that there are, canon reasons for his stiffness, his whiny nature. If I was Anakin, I would probably be really disappointed with my situation. You are told these stories of these amazing beings with powers. You're told you're one of them, and these people save you from slavery. And his master publicly didn't want to train him. Like, it was very clear that Obi-Wan did not think Anakin should become a part of the Jedi Order, and the only reason he's doing it is the dying wish of the guy that was literally willing to leave the Jedi Order to train this child. And
yeah.
He's being raised in this high demand cult that saved him from slavery and he doesn't have anything to fall back on. Like, it's not like if he's like, you know what, maybe this wasn't for me after all. He has anywhere to go.
Yeah. He's just a nobody again.
Not only is he a nobody, but like the Jedi don't have to get paid for their, like, they have Republic funds to do what they want, but like they don't have money.
Yeah.
So he's stuck. I might cry anyway. And I think that it's very clear. I don't know about you. People really get upset when he's like freaking out about Obi-Wan holding him back, but they do. The Jedi do hold Anakin back.
Yeah. I have always really appreciated in any story with a prophecy. I love a story where a clear line is drawn between the prophecy and the choices made differently because of the prophecy, and the result of what happens matching with the prophecy in the end.
Yeah.
I love a good prophecy that does all that, and this is a clear example, right? The whole he's the chosen one is the justification for why he shouldn't be trained and shouldn't be given power and shouldn't, because he's going to be too powerful and needs to be controlled. When in reality, like, if you're exceptional and you know you're exceptional, you're going to feel bad when you're not given the opportunities you know you should have, and that's not arrogance, right?
No.
That is pure on an accurate assessment of what he has.
I would be frustrated if I was Anakin and he holds way more restraint than I would. I would punch Mace Windu in the face multiple times. Like, it is clear that from Obi-Wan to Mace Windu, he is. I mean, just in episode 2, the way that Obi-Wan talks to him, you're like, this is insane. Like,
which I will admit is very different than the way that Obi-Wan talks to him in episode 3.
That's true, but he's also a Jedi Knight in episode 3.
and
he's not
fought hundreds of battles together. At that
he's
point.
not
Absolutely.
he's not his master anymore, and he like
yeah.
Man, you need to read this book that I'm going to give you. You'll like it a lot. I think that the other thing is that his character has a lot of reasons to be grumpy. He has a lot of reasons to be upset. And I think that when I look at Hayden's portrayal compared to like myself in being in a high demand cultish religion, I did a lot of things that I didn't want to do, that I felt like I was forced to do, that I didn't have a choice.
When you're saying high demand, you mean demanding, not in high demand.
Yes, demanding. And people really like, if I'm acting and I'm portraying Anakin Skywalker at this point in his life, there's probably so much rigidness and so much disdain for the things that I'm saying and doing that I don't know how it would possibly come across other than that like this. But I don't know. I love his Anakin. I think that
for what it's worth, that this is definitely stemmed to our we want our heroes to be perfect, and we put them up on a pedestal. And they're not allowed to be anything other than that.
Why would you put Anakin Skywalker on a pedestal? You know he's gonna be Darth Vader.
That's the reason. That's the thing that people don't. Honestly, I think people would have been happy if Anakin had not become Darth Vader in the prequels.
It's true. They really would have preferred it. It's so weird. But yeah, that's my favorite character.
Or he was like killed in some actual heroic thing and then like necromanced into Darth Vader or something.
Yeah.
Right. Not the fell then necromanced, as opposed to the becoming a necromancer's pet is the thing that made him evil.
Yeah. For me, let's go into favorite storylines. I'll go first. I think that as a child, it was the fall to Vader. Like I found it intriguing. I found it interesting. I found the good guys thinking that they won, but they definitely lost aspect of the whole story really interesting.
Yeah.
I also found the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan pretty interesting. But I think as an adult, the Fall of the Jedi was like, especially like the last probably 3 times I've watched this trilogy, it is crazy. The hubris of the Jedi is absolutely astonishing. Like, you start episode 1 and they're like, oh, the Sith are back. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, that definitely was, they already know about the rule of 2. They've been fighting the Sith for years. If you know Star Wars Legends, you know that, Darth Bane creates the rule of 2, I think 400 years or something before these events, and like they've been fighting 1 or 2 Sith ever since.
Yeah.
And in episode 2, Count Dooku just straight up tells them, like, hey, just so you know, the Senate's in control of the Sith, and they're like, nah, we would know that. Like, we would know.
Yeah, that I think that's a great example of why they're distancing themselves from politics is such a danger for them, right? Because they would know if they didn't at every step of the way say, "Oh, don't trust politicians, don't talk to politicians."
It's just nuts too, because like, Mace Windu, for those who don't know, was the youngest person ever granted the rank of Master, and so when he's the one that tells Anakin,
we would know.
No, not only that, but also tells Anakin, like, you don't get to be Master. Like, the amount of politics inside of the Jedi Order at this point is gross. And I was watching something on this the other day where you see Yoda's demeanor change in episodes 1, 2, and 3. Like, he gets sadder and sadder.
Yeah.
And it's because he's like, dude, I'm losing this. Like, I don't know what to do. And the Fall of the Jedi Order is... It's easy to, like, blame Anakin and blame Palpatine, but it is... I mean, we have a lot of the context now from, like, the Clone Wars and from books and stuff, but, I mean, you see it happen in the films. Like, you see them getting tricked, you see them, like, just getting played the whole time, and it is because they they have this huge temple dedicated to them. They have all of this resources, and I don't know, it's rough. And I love that story. I think that it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also think that, funnily enough, how obviously much of like the wider like Jedi religion and like Sith religion pieces that we only really start to see in the main series in this newest trilogy, but they're like throughout the shows, and this is all stuff jumbling around in George Lucas's head at some point, right? Like we don't see much of any like secreted away Jedi anything in these 3 movies, and it's almost because these Jedis have forgotten the religious order of their work as opposed to the
I think that like it really
power granted.
It really speaks to this thing that it's belief, right? That all life is connected, right? That's the basis of the Force.
Yeah.
All life is connected. All life is sacred and impacts one another. And then all of a sudden you have these, in all honesty, extreme religions branching out from that, right?
Yeah.
From the Sith, believing that life,
all power can be made mine, and
yeah, exactly,
adds that power. Yeah.
And then the Jedi, which believe that you should appreciate and distance yourself from everything.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's fascinating to me.
Totally, that so much of the teachings, right, of the Jedi as relayed in the prequels is like
rigid and hard.
The dark side is the thing that needs to be avoided, and basically anything that is not the dark side is good, but everything that's good is the dark side.
But everything that could lead you to do the dark side is also bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't get to appreciate certain things, aspects of things.
Yeah.
Because passion is bad? I don't know.
It's wild, and I think it's a tool that the Sith use, right? Is that in any strong moment they can pull you closer to them because of how freeing that can be. Well, but also, if your main teaching is anti-teach the other guys. Yes.
Well, no, absolutely. And it's this interpretation of quote-unquote scripture, right? Where, like, the Jedi are like... I think that Hayden does a really good job of this in Episode 2, or Anakin does when he's talking to Padme about love. Like, yeah. It is a beautiful scene where he's like, I think Jedi are encouraged to love. And it's funny because, like, looking back, I always thought that, he was skirting the rules, but I actually think he's right. Like, it is his interpretation of this belief of... I don't think Anakin falls because he's in love with Padme. I think Anakin falls because he's not allowed to love Padme.
Oh, yeah.
And those are different things. If we
had any idea of what was going on in, like, the whole... will Padme go to see a doctor that she can trust, that her pregnancy doesn't get out, but she can get it taken care of, so she has twins, right? The whole, like, where's an OBGYN part of Revenge of the Sith is kind of insane.
Hey, man, it's a galaxy far, a long time ago, bro. They, OBGYNs are far and few between. No, I'm just... just kidding.
Like, obviously, like, a lot of stuff I don't want to talk about on screen, but, like, man, the question of, like, how much are things being harmed because they can't talk about this relationship is something that I'd love to have more about.
What about you? What's your favorite storyline?
Oh, I think the Obi-Wan and Anakin arc is a fascinating one. And, like, there's a whole bunch of, like, mini things that I love seeing, but I don't know if they're necessarily storylines, right? Like, I love the transformation of Republic to Empire, right?
Well, I think that, just to go back to your Anakin Obi-Wan thing, there are 3 distinct differences in the films for those two, right?
Yeah.
You have, why are we freaking taking this kid with us? What are we doing?
Why does this make me think that you've acquired another pathetic full life form for us to take care of? Yeah, I know that line.
Yeah, I'm supposed to teach you, you're smarter than me, you're... stronger than me, you're faster than me, I don't know what I'm supposed to teach you anymore, but you're but
you're still mine.
But not only that, but, like, you keep breaking the rules. I can't send you to the jet. Like, they would be laughed off the face of the Jedi Earth if I was like, okay, this kid's ready. They'd be like, no, he, like, literally broke 17 rules last week. Like, we're not rein your kid in. Like, it's rough. It's rough to be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah, no, he's like the I was like a father to you, and you were like my brother is like so true, right? Like I was put in a father position well before I was ready, and my closest thing I have is like a brother.
You know, I think about some of the best teachers that I had in school, and I think you probably feel the same way. There were teachers who had no idea what to do with me.
Yeah.
Just actually no idea. And then there were teachers that let me dictate how I wanted to learn, how was best for me to better myself. And I don't think Obi-Wan is so rigid in who he is that I think that it was just a match made in hell for those two to be put together.
Yeah, it's true.
Are those some of the reasons you love that storyline, by the way? Well, I kind of hijacked it, but
I think I actually love how they go from this like rocky starting point to this absolute trust and admiration they share between each other by the time things start to go wrong, right? Like, Obi-Wan is absolutely not the reason that Anakin betrays the Jedi Order, right? If anything, Obi-Wan's the reason that Anakin was sticking it out this far. And the way that Anakin, you know, when told to search his feelings for how to find Anakin, Obi-Wan does know the answer, and the answer is go to Padme, right? Not that he probably didn't know that always, but...
Yeah. Can I... So, if you're listening to this and you're a long-time listener...
Oh, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Whatever. If you are listening to this and you're a long-time listener of my content, you'll know a friend of Wes and I, his name is Casey Bloodworth. And let me tell you, the number of PTQ or GP car rides where the relationship of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker comes up is a lot between the two of us. He, like me, Casey's a huge Star Wars fan. He actually thinks Obi-Wan is the worst Jedi of all time, and that he is the reason that Anakin fell. And I hard disagree. Like, I'm on your side. Like
that sounds like a Casey argument, so I'm here for it for this drama now. But I'll have to ask him about it.
But the thing that's so interesting to me is, like, it's very obvious that Obi-Wan knew about Padme and Anakin, and also, you know, I think Obi-Wan has got such a raw deal in all of this.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan is absolutely rarely where he wants to be in any given scene. He is just absolutely where he is placed.
Yeah.
Has he ever, like, he only won one lightsaber fight, two lightsaber fights in the entire trilogy, right? Out of 4 he fights?
He wins against Darth Maul.
He loses against Dooku every time.
Yeah, I mean, Dooku's also like a really, really good lightsaber.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's wrong, but he just.
So he loses to Dooku.
Out of the fight, yeah.
He loses to Dooku twice. He beats Anakin, and he beats.
And I wouldn't say that beating Maul was really like. I feel like a lot of that work was already done.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I gotta understand though. If what I said wasn't like the core of your love of their relationship, like where do you think your love for that storyline sits?
It's their final fight. Absolutely, it's totally their fight on Mustafar. I think is where the core of that relationship sits.
You know what's crazy? A lot of people are like love that fight for the fight. I think the fight.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Like it's absolutely the conversation they're having the whole time. I think
it is
fascinating.
It's funny because people like hate that line, and like it's one of those examples of like bad dialogue. Like if you let Hayden instead say what Anakin is feeling and what he's thinking and what Anakin is thinking, you probably get a different line that means the same thing, right?
Yeah. And
I agree. I think that the expression of their fight is also interesting. I was trying to Google this while we were doing the show, but there's a meme of them spinning their lightsabers around while they're standing on that table, and there's actually a reason for that. In sword fighting, I think it's called reverse parrying, but it's not coming up. But basically, you will do this motion that these two are doing to get around the other's sword, so that you can then disarm them. And so this moment where they're both doing this at rapid speed, they're both trying to set up to gain advantage. But they're doing it extremely quickly because they're Jedi, so it just looks funny. But there actually is a reason in sword fighting for doing this. And I think one of the things that you see in that fight scene is their relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting. So.
Well, and I think that, it's unfortunate for Obi-Wan how well Anakin matches into every moment of theirs, right? Like, how often they're put in situations where not just like Anakin on his like advanced powers level, but Anakin as a person is better than Obi-Wan at what they're trying to do at that given moment.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, move fast, right, is what Anakin's better at than Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Obi-Wan overthinks everything.
Yeah.
So.
So I think that's always an interesting piece of what's happening, right? But it's such a good dynamic. The like, I'm on the move and you have to catch up, even though you're the one saying what's going on, I think is a classic mentor-mentee dynamic, and I think it plays out really well in their relationship.
Let's go on to could be betters. I think that there are, just like we had in the original trilogy, we're gonna have some here. What are some could be betters for you, West?
There was this one scene towards the beginning of Phantom Menace that I like kept like scrolling back to replaying, and it's like they're trying to break into the door of the bridge, and then like they get like blasted by some droids, and then it's just like 2 frames they're like in one place, and then they're clear out of the screen, and there's like maybe 1 frame where they're still on, and they just move so fast. Like they were edited in there or something, but it just seems so unrealistic there for a moment, even faster than how Jedi normally move. I really enjoyed the few bits of that were around the Phantom Menace where like it feels like frames were skipped as a part of editing of making things seem fast. I think it's always really funny.
So when I get you to finally play KOTOR, you will really enjoy the burst of speed force power, because that is literally how it looks in the game.
Okay, sweet. That I enjoy. Also, I feel like I play paused so often in KOTOR when I am playing it that's just how everything feels anyways.
Sure. Any other could be betters?
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen more of the old Star Wars style costume designs for aliens as opposed to the CGIs. I think there are characters that they went with CGI versions that like the old fursuit would have done just fine.
Sure.
Or like puppeteering or any of them, and I think it would have just been like, show like there was a lot of displaying of like, here's what our new technology can do, and not a lot of how much better have we gotten at the technology that made us great.
Yeah. That's fair. I think that's a common complaint.
Yeah. Other than that, write better. I don't know. They're awesome.
I'll go into my could be betters because it wraps into yours. Obviously, I think the dialogue is really bad. I'm glad that the memes have kind of helped with that in a lot of ways. I think that it took the bad dialogue and made it something that we love about the films, rather than something that makes us cringe.
The Padme is like, you mean it, right? One is fantastic.
I think that these films are too short. It's so funny too, because like if these films were made now, they'd all be 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like we just wouldn't have a problem with that. And when you hear about the things that they cut from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, you're like, holy crap. No wonder everybody hates the relationship between Anakin and Padme, because you cut everything out of it. No wonder everybody hates, like, they just cut so much. And
I love I've not watched the deleted scenes of Attack of the Clones, but I love the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes.
Yeah. There's just a lot cut. I think that there's a lot more that we could have seen from the characters, and that's like a huge could be better for me. And, it could be better for those who are listening. These are usually our chance to just talk about things that we wish were different rather than, talk crap on the things that we're reviewing. And I am usually one to kind of just accept what we're given and not, I don't know, like...
Not complain?
Yeah, I mean, not just not complain, but, like, I think that there's not a lot of value in tearing stuff down instead of appreciating what we have. But I didn't write this could be better, but I would recast Jake Lloyd. I think that he... I don't know.
Oh, got it. Baby Anakin.
I think that he plays Anakin too young. I think that... I don't know. It's hard with child actors, right? Like, you don't know what you're gonna... You don't really know what you're gonna get. And also, like, it really sucks that child acting needs to be a thing that exists, because, we need children in films, otherwise...
We don't tell stories about children.
Yeah. But I don't even know that it's his acting. Like, I know people like to talk crap on his acting, and I think that most of that's the same dialogue problems in the other one.
Yeah.
But I do think that Jake Lloyd doesn't connect me in a lot of ways to Anakin. Like, I don't know. Maybe he does a good job. I'm like almost starting to regret this. But like,
I mean, he's the youngest child that has like any significance anywhere in Star Wars, right?
It's true. He's just like really hopeful and like really... I don't think that he portrays the pain that Anakin is going through at all.
Sure, but also like it's very much like natural in a kid of that age to just subsume that pain as well.
That could be true. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I would do differently there, but I don't know. Maybe I'd have Anakin have a smaller part in that movie. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because pod racing is definitely like some of the best part of that movie.
I think, and the thing is that I think he does like a really good job in any moment where there's like a pod racer, like between fixing it, between talking about the droids, like even his conversation with C-3PO. I'm just like,
yeah,
what is happening in this conversation?
Like, what are we learning about
yeah, I just
Darth
don't
Vader?
I just don't feel like we actually get to know kid Anakin at all, and I wonder what the value that like having him play such like a naive young child brought to the character. Whereas maybe my problem isn't Jake. Maybe my problem is the writing of young Anakin, where it's like...
what I just realized I need to see?
What?
I need to see like a self-help video recorded by Darth Vader talking about how you too can rise above your station and serve the Empire. Because if he did it from where he came from, anyone can do it. I want to see that toxic positivity Darth Vader self-help promotional video. Someone give me that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna change my could better. It is not Jake Lloyd. It is what we got from younger Anakin.
Yeah.
I think that it does the character a disservice.
I mean, it's hard because at this stage of everything, right, we really only have 3 characters in the mix that are part of future Star Wars, right?
Well, I mean,
we have 5 characters.
The main character of...
Discount droids.
Yeah, I mean, R2-D2 was the main character of Star Wars until the sequels happened, so...
Yeah. Absolutely. Which is funny because this is R2's least important film.
What? He literally saves Obi-Wan and...
He's awesome. He's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But, like, he does a lot in every film.
Sure. Let's go on to Lovitz. Wait, well, I guess you had something to say there.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm happy to move on.
Okay. I'll go first. I'll go pretty quickly. The fight scenes, I don't know what we did to deserve the fight scenes from all 3 of these films. Were just...
Said we liked the fight scenes from the first 3. That's probably what we said, what we did.
What do you mean?
If we like things, they'll give us more of it in the future.
Yeah, but like, is there? I mean, the fight scene in the in Empire and Return are good, but like,
Yeah.
like the choreography. I mean, look at Darth Maul. Like, we did nothing to deserve that as humans.
We've done nothing to deserve Darth Maul at any point he's on screen. So.
Oh man, that should have been one of my could be betters. I actually wrote that down for what it's worth. Is like, we all wanted more Maul. Like, that's one of the reasons that they should have been 3 hours, just so that like we could get more of that. But yeah, the fight scenes, the holy crap. I mean, all three of them have just these moments of pure elation. Might be the word I want.
Do you think that like more interaction with Maul from Anakin would have changed Anakin's choices down the line?
I don't know. I think that more Maul would have been really good in a lot of ways. I mean, Maul is like this child that was taken from his mother and raised to be a weapon by Sidious, right? Like, if he had like any lines with all three of those, like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, or I mean, just more Maul would have been great. Like, I think that his character is really interesting and unexplored. I even think that in the Clone Wars, by the way.
I still want more Maul.
Yeah, like I just think that
after everything we've had of him, I want more Maul, more Maul, more Maul. He's one of the coolest like loose ends of all of Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. The next thing that I love is going to contradict one of your could be betters. I love the visual aspects of Star Wars in these three films. Obviously the locations are beautiful, but there's a lot of moments where the escapism really works. I know, like Coruscant, for example, in all three films, I don't even realize it's CG in a lot of moments. I'm just like, in this, I don't know, maybe I'm better at escaping than some people are, but I really like it.
See, every time Coruscant comes into view on it, I just have the word Ecumenopolis pop in my head, which is the term for an entire planet that's a city. Or a city that's an entire planet. And then I just like dive into like this like analysis rabbit hole that allows me to totally skip any of the views. But I think one of specifically Coruscant's bad for me in escapism.
It's so funny too, because like it's not like Coruscant is unique in the way that that's not how a planet could possibly exist or work, right? Hoth couldn't, Tatooine couldn't.
I was gonna name other Ecumenopolises in
popular. Of the era. I'm just saying, like, Star Wars as a whole, like, the only planet that makes any sense is Naboo.
In terms of like it actually has a very climate.
Yeah, like there's just no way any of the other planets could sustain.
Naboo's theme is supposed to be too much water, right?
No, it's not too much water. It's almost Earth.
Well, yeah, except for the part where it has water tunnels going directly through the center of the Earth, right?
I don't know that when they say the core, they actually mean the core. I don't know that the Gungans are actually on the opposite side of the planet, man.
That's fair. The Gungans might not know anything. I believe that. But all the same,
like also
my
like
guess is that Naboo is designed to be a foil to Tatooine.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of water on. I mean, also like there's an entire planet of swamp on Dagobah. Like obviously the planets don't work. You don't need to worry about that, you weirdo. Gosh. Anyway.
Question of shipping food supplies into Coruscant. Let's have those conversations in Star Wars, please.
Anyway, the visual aspects of this film are really good to me. Like, I think of the three monsters that they fight in Attack of the Clones, and I was captivated. Like, obviously all three of those are CG, but like I never noticed as a child, and as an adult I still
I liked Rhino, Big Cat, and Big Bug. Those were great characters.
Yeah. And then my final of it is I loved the tragedy. I think that I don't know, I think they did a good job of capturing the pain of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, I think both of them you really get to. I mean, Obi-Wan looks miserable most of the series, so like you know, but I think they did a really good job of capturing the tragedy of it all. And then I have one more love it that's not film related, but I love the memes. There was a TikTok that I saw that was like, Newt Gunray wants, they need Newt Gunray's help to create the Separatists, so one of his requirements is that they kill Padme. So Dooku hires a bounty hunter, who hires a bounty hunter, who hires a droid, who hires some bugs to kill her, and that's just funny to me. So.
And it's a tight and cohesive plot line.
Yeah, it's just great. Go ahead. What are your love-its?
I love the small rolling battle droids. I love.
Dude, those are so funny. Cool.
I love anytime lightsabers cutting through metal, because I think that's just really funny. I think that like if I had a lightsaber, I'd be like just breaking down.
You die in like you would lose a limb in literal minutes.
Oh yeah, I'd have the best time doing it too.
You know what's funny is you probably wouldn't lose it from the lightsaber, but you'd chop some lamp up. Yeah, you'd chop some lamp or something, and it still being molten hot would fall on your arm, and you'd lose your arm.
Yeah. Oh no doubt I would, or like just like drop it on my foot.
Sure. You try to spin it or something. And...
Oh, I would try to spin it too early.
Yeah.
All right. Lightsabers are fantastic. I love the kind of like different Jedi fighters we see over the course of it. Ships in Star Wars are always really fascinating. We get to see more varieties with like less thought put into them, I would say, throughout the prequels. So we just get to see so many more ships and then let other people do the thinking about them. Because we all know what an X-Wing does. We all know what a TIE Fighter does. But who knows what these things do? I love... Oh, man. Snappy one-liners. Give me more snappy one-liners.
Yeah, I love... Ewan McGregor's one-liners are just, like, unreal.
Hello there.
Yeah, it's too good.
I love anytime the Jedi are sneaking. I think the Jedi are funny when they're sneaking.
Sure.
Because it's, like, mostly no one's in their way. That's mostly how they sneak, is they just get lucky.
That's funny.
They're never really going around guards. If there's guards, they're just going straight through them.
So, I want to move on to rating each film, but I want to talk about a text you sent me. As you watched The Phantom Menace for this podcast, you texted me. Do you remember what you said?
I've already forgotten what I said, so this is going to be good content, I can tell.
Man, I might have to pull it up, because you said something along the lines of, like... Let's find it.
I mean, I remember you saying that you thought the best acting in the prequels was in the Clone Wars, and I didn't disagree with you on that one. But I don't remember the other thing I said.
Did I say that?
Yeah. Not the best writing, the best acting.
I can't find it. You said something along the lines of, if I hadn't watched this before this for this podcast, my review of this movie would be that drastically different or something.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was good, and I actually probably overrated it before I watched it again, relative to everything else, just because it had been a long time and it's still my least seen movie of Star Wars.
Sure.
A lot, except maybe Solo.
You made it sound like you really didn't like it. Like you remembered loving it.
I don't know about really didn't like it, but like... comes back at it with an adult's realism around it.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of...
Man, how broken are we that we have to have realism in our fantasy films?
I mean, we're broken on a lot of fronts. That's just one of them. And I don't know about like realism is the thing I wanted, but like I know Star Wars as like a world too well. I want that I want things that feel like Star Wars. I don't want... Like, I want it to feel right within the Star Wars universe. I don't necessarily need it to be real.
So we're going to rate these from 0 to 5 for films, and then we're going to give the ratings to the trilogy. For me, it's really hard because I would rate these differently depending on the year of my life I was in. But I would give... I should have written these down. I would give Phantom Menace... like, I don't know, maybe a 3.5 or a 4. I would give Attack of the Clones a 4. And I would give Revenge of the Sith probably a 5. I think it's just a great film that I probably wouldn't change.
The ratings 3, 4, 5 slot into my head perfectly. for thinking about these films, and I don't think I needed to think too hard about it.
Yeah.
But granted, I feel like a 3 is like really low on reviews I give for the show, so I feel like I have to clarify that. But I do feel like the full step between each of these films.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like we didn't even mention Jar Jar Binks. Like he's not even a could be better for me.
It's just like
I don't even care that like there's comedic relief in these films. And honestly, I prefer the Jar Jar comedic relief to, the disservice that they did to C-3PO in Attack of the Clones. So it's hard.
Oh yeah, C-3PO does not have a good time in Attack of the Clones. That's for sure.
I do think
his first trip off planet is not what you want.
And then for the entire story, I would probably rate this a little higher than people would expect. There's some nostalgia in that, but I don't know. I think that I would give it like a 4.5 almost.
Yeah, same.
And obviously, I think Revenge carries a lot of the weight for that for me. But I think
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like it's funny, right? Because like Empire is considered this great bridge, right? And I don't know that Attack is a great bridge film, but so much happens in Revenge that you needed to see, and they do such a good job with it that it actually lifts up Attack for me in a lot of ways, where like I get paid off for watching Attack and watching this relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin and stuff like that. And I even get paid off for a lot of the conversations that happen in Phantom. So,
I mean, I would say undeniably, it feels like Phantom Menace is written as Anakin origin story, right? Like, where does Anakin come from, and who is he? That is our job in this movie.
Yeah.
And then Attack of the Clones is we know where we need to be to start Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
And how do we get to there? That's all it is.
It's different than like the 3-part tale of other trilogies for sure.
Yeah, because we actually just know our end state, and we know and like the clearest idea of storytelling is like how do we get to that end state? So we know like a few hours of screen time before that end state.
Whereas we actually
don't really know the middle state.
Yeah, that's fair.
We can just fill in a bunch of blanks on this very focused movie that is The Phantom Menace.
Yeah. So we're both at a 4.5 for the trilogy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's what we gave. I asked the podcast listeners to make us a spreadsheet of our ratings, but I don't think it's happened yet. But if you want to do it, go for it.
Don't make us go back and listen to ourselves.
For our wrap up, I'm going to drop some fun Star Wars things, some tidbits on you, okay? The reason that, or at least in the video game and in Legacy, the reason that Jango Fett was picked is there was a bounty put on a Jedi. Jango Fett was the one that completed it, and so because they needed the clones to be able to kill Jedi, he was picked to be the person that. So he completed the bounty, and then he was offered to do the other, become the source of these clones instead of collecting his bounty by Count Dooku, and he accepted. One of the greatest fan theories is one that I told my wife as we watched Revenge of the Sith the other night, which is that the reason that you have that evil smile and the reason that Emperor Palpatine actually knows that Padme is dead, even though he shouldn't know that at all, that she's dying, is that he's actually draining the life from her and giving it to Anakin to keep him alive, which is why the droids can't explain why she's dying.
This all adds up to me. That one doesn't even seem like a stretch.
Yeah. It is not confirmed, but it's the thing that makes the most sense. And you actually see like this evil smile from him as he tells Anakin and all this jazz.
Mostly I just thought that like that's the nail in the coffin of now you only live for me.
Yeah.
Is where that evil smile is, no matter what the mechanics of it were, is that Darth Vader believing Padme is dead is everything Sidious needs at that point.
Yeah, and then I don't remember what the last one I was going to give you was. Let's see, these are why I usually write things down, but I wanted to drop these on West without I'm seeing that.
Funny that he thought I'd read the show notes.
That's fair. I mean, you literally put in the show notes Like, I wrote mine before you, even though you went before me on one of these segments, and you wrote, yeah, classic or something. So, like, you didn't even write what you were thinking.
Yep.
So you do read them. Don't pretend you don't. That's going to do it for this week's episode. You can find me at H on Twitter. You can also find me every week on MythicCast if you want to achieve Mythic on MTG Arena. That is the podcast to listen to. As, you know, we got Mythic Michaela, double Mythic all the time.
I'm going to have to do my work to get Mythic for the new limited set because I never came on for Strixhaven.
Oh, yeah. That's mostly my fault, for what it's worth. But yeah, we'll get you on there. Get Mythic and we'll get you on there.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, if you want to check out, I do plan on figuring out how to stream either monthly or weekly in the future. I'm not sure how that will work, but, you know, head on over to twitch.tv/Heezy Media. For that, you can find West at East_monotone.
Nailed it.
And
two N's there at the end.
Two N's, that's right. And you can find the show at Neat to Nerd Pod on Twitter. We're available everywhere, and, you know, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, we're probably available. And honestly, if you want to help the show, you don't have the $1 a month to donate on Patreon, just take a couple seconds to leave a review. It really, really helps the show. It's the number one thing you can do to help us. It is worth so much to us, and we would really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. It means the world to us. West, you know, I am really grateful that you're willing to do these Star Wars episodes with me after all the Pokemon I gave you last year. So...
You like Pokemon, I like Star Wars. Let's not kid ourselves that people are doing favors for each other.
I really appreciate the favor, man. You know, it's the real favor you're doing me is rereading books for me here in a little bit. But thank you, everybody, so much for listening. I couldn't be more excited for, you know, being back into some level of normalcy for me and kind of where we're going to be going from here. And join us next week as we talk about, do you know what it is, West?
Next week?
Do you know? Off the top of your head?
Pokemon TCG?
It is not. That is
movie we have to watch together.
That is technically going to be July week 4 because of the shift. This week was supposed to be our Valheim review. So we will be doing our Valheim review next week. What if it was for puppies, West? What if it was?
It is for puppies.
What if it was? Thank you, everybody. See you guys next week.
Meow.